Well, now time for a show about Crowfall. Apparently, we got to do some stuff here. But another thing that was bugging me this week, because apparently I start every single show about things that bug me, or as opposed to Valor, who starts every single show about something to do of a sexual nature. But
I thought that was late.
no.
Everyone knows better.
You're the deviant one.
No, I'm pretty sure that's late.
But I was at the grocery store. I was shopping for, stuff for the week, deli meats and making my sandwiches. And I don't know if it's by you guys, maybe it's just out here in the Northeast, but there's a section where they do pre-cut cheeses and ham and turkey and stuff like that. They package it and they put it in a little cooler area. And then you go up to the deli and ask for your pound of whatever, half a pound of this, that, and the other. So what happens to all the deli meat that just sits there for days on end that people don't buy? Because everybody goes to the deli and gets freshly sliced stuff. I mean, do you guys see the problem with? Do you see this? No, it's the same price. Same price. It's convenience.
No, it's discounted after a certain period of time. They're probably like, hey, you gotta get rid of it.
I don't want discounted deli meat. That stuff's disgusting. Valor, how about in Austin? I know you guys are underwater there. How do your delis work? How do you like your deli meats?
Yeah, you just go up there, they grab this little meat that's been sitting there for however long.
And they slice it, right?
They slice it right there and serve it.
There's no other section next where it's pre-sliced and pre-packaged for you from the deli?
They've got some, and you know what? Sure enough, they do. They've got a discount section where it's like 2 days from being bad, so you can go and get yourself some cheap stuff.
I don't know. But
I see your point.
it bothers me because it's like my wife says, just go and get the cheese and the ham for there. I'm like, no, it's disgusting. But it's probably the same thing, right? It's all dated the same day.
You know what bothers me?
What bothers you?
Something about Crowfall.
Well, we're not there yet.
Smooth transition.
Yes, come on. This is Crowns and Crows, a Crowfall podcast. Dragon here with Lakes and Valor as every other week. Time for the rundown. We got a multi-language localization. Stretch goal has been met. New stretch goal is a new shadow rule set. We'll go into that a little bit later. They got about $60,000 left to go. And something wrong with our sound. I'm getting sound notifications right in the middle of the... is it too low?
Apparently, Lake and I are low, and you're...
Way too loud?
Yeah.
How's that, guys? We're going to do a live sound check.
Yeah.
Live
He's
sound
got
check.
a new mic, so he wants to overpower us.
Yes.
Truthfully, that's probably the problem there. It's
No.
doing so much.
It was an OBS. It was an OBS, I think, setting. Well, now we'll wait because I never changed the Twitch delay back to 1, so now we have to wait for everybody to chime in. Yeah, whatever. Should we just start at the top again?
I mean, we can skip the deli part.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to do that.
For the
Anyway,
love of
this
God,
is live.
down-
Fuck it, we'll do it live. Anyway, there's just 60K to go on the new stretch goal, and of course everybody's saying I've got a new headset, so now I'm a pro gamer. It's official. It's white, and it's gorgeous. So, talking points for today. I think we were kind of looking for things to talk about, and Valor brought up a really good thread that's been kind of brewing on the official forums for a couple weeks now, I think. It's the combat time to kill, or TTK, as devs like to talk about. Most of the time you're going to hear about TTK as a method on time to kill for mobs, but in Crowfall, it's all about the PvP, so we're going to talk about how long should two equally skilled and equally geared people survive when fighting each other. And then Crowfall had an update today. They talked about combat testing, and they introduced 3 different archetypes about how things are going to be tested. And we're going to talk about the new stretch goal, which is the Shadow. So, first off, we didn't really come up with an order in which we wanted to talk about. So let's talk about the easy one first that we know least about. And that is the Shadow. Did everybody hear that? Because it didn't go off on my screen. That's
running through those hoses.
Is that the follower thing? Of,
yes.
Valor. So we put a new thing up. Valor is notorious for his rapping, and we finally got to catch it on this past episode. So if you follow this little thing that pops up with Valor saying running through hose like Drano or whatever his little fancy saying is. So if you guys want to check that out, make sure you follow.
I mean, if they heard it.
Okay, we now we have to pause because it was working before I went live, and now it's no longer working as we have gone live.
I'm really fearful that this is going to be abused.
It's going to be so abused.
I'm really fearful it's going to be abused.
All right, well we'll do a list. Okay, why don't you go over Valor as
Okay.
I fix this? What the new
Yeah,
rule set
so-
is, or what it appears to be.
Yeah, so you know, I came across the time. Well, it was how long do we want combat to take? Time to kill. And people brought in.
No, we're not talking about that first.
What?
We're talking about the new stretch goal because we're going to get that out of the way.
Oh, the shadows.
Yes, please.
Okay, so I mean, still, you know, great. We have this new announcement. We're going for next stretch goal achieved, and we still really don't even know everything there is to know about it. The shadows. It is theorized that the dregs are going to be the most hardcore, as small group as possible, yet still support guilds. So if we assume that, then what I expect is that the shadow will allow guilds to have alliances and fealty trees.
That's it.
I guess.
Guild versus guild.
There's nothing. There's nothing out there. I mean, they've just barely touched on it. You know.
Would you rather play guild versus guild, or would you play free for all? Since you're the two of you are the big guild people, so.
I would rather do guild versus guild because I enjoy, you know, the tactics that go into it, and you know, it's more than just going out there log. It's more than an FPS, effectively.
Mm-hmm. That's good. What about you, Lex? Would you prefer the guild for guild v guild stuff?
I got to satisfy both my needs. I want to participate in large guild stuff, but I feel like the free-for-all is where I'm going to have my secondary account lurking around, different name, who knows, and I'm going to go around and just try to kill people. I want to participate in a specific rule set that has friendly fire. So whichever one that is, that's where I would like to put most of my effort into, because I feel like the friendly fire aspect is something we've been missing for a really long time in MMOs. So I'm excited about it, and that's where I'll try to camp and be active, I guess.
All right, so I guess there's really not much to talk about. We don't really know the different rules. I think there's the difference is that the risk factor, and you know who you might be going up against. Okay, well let's get you were jumping for this topic, Valor. You preface it. You find the threads every single week what we should be talking about. So what's going on in the time to kill thread? Let's dive into that.
The TTK thread I'm a little bit more excited about than the potential shadow stretch goal because it's something that we can talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Time to kill is an element that takes place in every game that has PvP, and honestly probably factors into PvE as well. And effectively, just a simple rundown is if two people face each other, how long is it going to take for them to fight? And then also, larger scale, 10, we'll say 10 versus 10, 50 versus 50, 200 versus 200, etc. And a lot of people have concerns that either too short of a time to kill will encourage large groups, or too long of a time to kill will encourage large groups.
So everybody's playing Goldilocks then, apparently.
One thing that came up, and like I don't know if you've seen this in some of the MOBA stuff that you've done, but people said that they liked how long it took to kill somebody in a MOBA. I mean, how do you feel about trying to incorporate that into an MMO?
I don't think it works in an MMO, and a few reasons. And I have solutions, so I was thinking about this while I was reading this thread. And first of all, if you were to take how quick someone pops in a MOBA and you put that into an MMO, and now you have 40 people versus 40 people, and 40 people spike one person, they blow up with one skill from 3 people, what happens to the rest of the guys? There's a lot of things involved in the MMO that the whole how quick someone pops in a MOBA, it just won't apply. So the MMO is going to have a different aspect of that. It needs to be a prolonged fight, or where cooldowns matter. You need to track your cooldowns where you can survive for 30 seconds plus on certain cooldowns, and you're rotating them properly. But if you're not using your skills right, you should pop. Essentially, that's kind of how the design standpoint, that's how I feel. I like combat. It forces people to be good. Either you're going to be a good tank that's a good meat shield that knows how to use their cooldowns effectively, or you're going to be someone that just pops because you're terrible. So I think that aspect really facilitates good players, hardcore players, mediocre players. You can definitely feel the difference between each of them. But I think some solutions I was thinking in my head was maybe your damage output and everything else would be based off of how many people are involved in that area at the time. So if it's like a 5v5, then it would be scaled down a little more than a 40v40.
That's, I mean, you can't really do that because your damage has to be predictable and everything. Let's start with a very simple question. 1 versus 1, given equal skill, and, you know, it's not like it's a tank versus a healer, which will last forever because they're just mitigating whatever each other is doing to each other.
No healers, bro. Times.
Well, there's support characters, so maybe there's shields that keep people up forever and ever. But in any case, let's talk about, you know, just 2 standard characters beating on each other that do equal damage and equal defense to each other. How long should they live when you're fighting that one? We'll start with you, Lakes.
I think, depending on skill rotations, how people use your stuff, when you can block different things, I'd say that a good 30 seconds is a long time.
That's a very long time.
It's significant, and I think that would probably be a good place where a 1v1 would sit at. But then you think of if a 1v1 did last 30 seconds. Now let's just say 10 people.
Was that too? Well, let's start off it with before we scale up into group dynamics. Let's stick with.
You can't definitively. You can't say right out the bat that I want a 1v1 to last 30 seconds without looking at the bigger picture.
Well, I know we got to build up to it. That's what I'm saying. We got to.
I would like a 1v1 to last 30 seconds.
Okay. Now, if we got to create baselines. I've got the engineering background. I got to set up all the variables before we go. So, 2 people fighting each other using the active defensive skills, doing good dodging. They're a skillful player, so they can avoid obvious damage. They're fighting for 30 seconds before somebody wins. How long, if a person stands exactly still, and you're beating on them, how long does it for them to die if you're just going right at them?
If they're just not using anything at all?
How fast would a 100 to 0 take in this game?
Guess, without all the other variables, I would say about 10 seconds.
10 seconds.
Would be my
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. Because we want to know, like, you know, that tells you essentially how durable the average player is going to be when you're just doing a full load of damage, you know, right on top of. How about you, Valor? What are your takes on that?
You know, I'm actually okay, and I've experienced in the past a 1v1 taking minutes. You know, depending on builds, of course.
Right.
But you know, if you have 2 people who know how to play their class and are actively using their defensive skills, you know, we're saying these are twitch. You know, so you see somebody casting a spell, you dodge, they have to react back and forth. Honestly, I'd be okay if you have 2 highly skilled players taking, you know, 2 minutes.
Sure.
You know, using those skills. Now, the common, you know, nuke versus nuke, you know, type archetype. Yeah, sure. You know, 10 seconds. That's perfect for me. If you walk up on somebody and you just want to shank them in the back because they're dumb standing somewhere, man, let people shank people in the back.
And just kill them.
Yeah, I mean, why try and draw that out? And you know, what's worse than, you know, finding somebody AFK? You start attacking them, and you've spent like 10 seconds, 15 seconds attacking them. They're at half health, and they come back. I mean, come on, give me the kill.
I honestly feel like if anyone can kill anyone in 10 seconds in a 1v1, it would have to be someone that's specifically designed with single target damage versus an AoE. So a caster, in my opinion, should not be able to 1v1 somebody in 10 seconds.
From range.
From a range position. Someone that should be able to kill somebody in 10 seconds is more of an assassin class, where there's a lot of risk versus gain. First of all, that assassin type class would need to get in close enough to kill a ranged character. And then when they do, you either can outplay it with different skills or whatever, but really the only person that should be able to 100 to 0 someone that quick is someone designed to kill somebody very fast, which would be more of an assassin class to me.
Well, I mean, here's my take on it, and I'll give a couple examples. If anybody ever tried, at least currently in the latest World of Warcraft patch, their PvP is absolutely dreadful. And I did it for a short amount of time just because it was a good way to get gear to play with some dudes doing some other stuff, but it took forever to kill somebody. I mean, it literally, like, somebody just standing there, 4 people beating on them, it would take like 10 to 20 seconds to kill somebody. And this is everybody with just like standard PvP gear, and that just felt too long. You felt like you were essentially a wet noodle slapping on somebody, and it just wasn't entertaining. And then, of course, then you go with, you know, a lot of the Korean games. I'm playing that game Echo Soul right now, and you can stun lock, kill somebody within, you know, 2 seconds if the right classes match up, which I think is way too fast. I mean, some of the considerations you have to take is that this game is either full loot, partial loot, or there's some kind of loss involved that you can't recover from. So obviously you know that going into it, but you still don't want somebody dying and losing some of their stuff in a blink of an eye, unless they get steamrolled by, like, 20 people, like they went AFK out in the middle of nowhere all by themselves. So I think Lakes, that you have a pretty good target there with 10 seconds by themselves and 30 seconds one-on-one, given skillful play, whatever. And then of course you can have different classes that have good mobility and you can run around for 2 minutes,
Right.
like Valor said. So let's scale this up now, because it is a PvP game and hardly any of us will be playing by themselves. Let's go with 10v10 skirmish. So now you're going to have your array of defensive characters blocking damage. Hopefully there's physics, and you have a front line and a back line. And then you've got people with some defensive skills, like spells and stuff like that can keep people up from dying. So we'll start again with you, Lakes. How do you see a 10v10 unfolding, given equal skill and a similar comp back and forth?
I feel like there's different ways to play this game based on the physics. I feel like some strategies that, even if you take a look at like Spartan tactics, where they'd swap out front lines essentially to help give the people a little bit of rest, would help prolong a fight. And that would be based off of the front line being able to block a vast majority of maybe projectile damage where they're kind of in the way, and then you're able to swap out, allow those people to regen and get their buffs back up and prolong those longer fights with the 10v10. I think that's the best way to put it, because if you were to take a single person and say that in a 1v1 situation they'd pop in 30 seconds, or the fight would be over in about 30 seconds,
right?
Then if you put it into a 10v10 where 10 people are spiking out one person, should that person be able to live for a long period of time? And I think if you're able to spike over and over again, then I really think that takes away from different tactics that are being applied. Like, you can't use some of those different kinds of tactics.
You can't do it if you have player blocking people.
Because you're going to have somebody just blow up instantly, no matter who they are, right?
Well, I mean, if the physics works, you physically can't go through a front line if, like, if he's like a mage or something like that, and you got two big knights sitting in front of him. Hopefully, you can't just like blink, smack him around, blink out again, and stuff like that. I personally feel that, and I'll pose this question to you, Valor, that if 10v10 people clash, they fight for like a quick 20 seconds and see how things going, and then kind of back off and nobody dies, I'd be okay with that too.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you brought up a great point earlier, is that people will have things to lose. A good number of these campaigns are going to be full loot, or at least partial loot. Whatever you're working on or carrying with you, you're going to lose. And if you don't lose it, it's going to deteriorate due to death. Add in the fact that you're going to be spawned back in some remote location away from your fight and away from your friends. It might have taken them 20 minutes to get there. There's a lot of negative things that come around from dying. So if it's just way too easy to die, that actually kind of will inhibit people wanting to PvP.
Sure.
And so you want to find that balance. And I think Blixtev was talking about, took him about a minute or so to kill Tully. Clearly
he was playing a knight though, because he was talking about us a charge.
Clearly Blixtev isn't that great, because if it takes you a minute to kill Tully, I mean, come on.
Oh boy.
Press.
British.
Shots fired.
He also doesn't watch our show, so I can talk all the crap I want to about him. But point being that if you don't want people just getting blown up without having a res skill, which we've talked about in past shows. But at the same time, you don't want a 10v10 taking 10 minutes, if they are constantly engaged. I don't mind a 10v10 taking an hour if it is a strung out, retreat and regroup, attack, find your strategic points, etc.
Try to flank them, try to disappear, that type of thing.
I'm okay with the game taking that amount of time.
Well, I mean, this game is going to be very difficult to balance correctly, because the developers have a very difficult job to do, because people are used to, in most PvP games, going in, dying, rezzing, coming back, and fighting another day. So they have to train players to be like, if I die, this is a big deal. I need to either play safe or not go ham and go and try to kill people. So there's definitely like a retraining factor going on there, and people are going to be looking to kill somebody in 10 seconds, but they're going to have to learn how to take a kill in 5 minutes and be happy with that with their group.
I think because of this game having no fire hose healing, that everyone has to have some. They don't have to, but a good idea is you can't have people just go in, pop, and then try to res again.
It's not fun.
No healing to. There's right. No one's gonna have fun getting popped over and over again. There has to be some sort of mechanic to allow people to fight and play the game a little bit, because you don't have that healer to back you up. Generally, in a game where you have a healer, you can have that 10-second pop because you were maybe in the wrong place, wrong time kind of thing, or your class is designed to be supported by something else to effectively do the job. AKA you're like a DPS or something, you have a healer in the back line kind of popping heals and protecting you, giving you a little bit of movement speed, whatever, to outplay. That aspect allows that 10-second pop. Now you take it to look at, we're not going to have that style of play. We're going to have support classes. Who even knows what the support's going to do? On top of that, maybe we'll have a little bit of healing. They did say there's
going to be disciplines in there. Right.
There's going to be some sort of healing, but you can't have the 10-second pop. It's not going to be fun for somebody. Even if you're a ranged character, what if someone's able to get on top of you and there's not any room for outplay? Like, it goes back in the whole game design and everything, but I think a 10 seconds is a little bit unreasonable. I would rather have the fights be a little longer, but not too long. I think, in my opinion, as long as they're not over like a minute and a half, that's really long. I think a minute is about the maximum I would like to see a 1v1 go on for a set period of time.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, you can't have we don't know how all the dynamics of this game are going to work, but you can't really also have suicide classes, like the class that can go in, pop somebody, and jump right out, and that's basically like the assassin meta from League of Legends, where a character can teleport in from the shadows, kill somebody, and teleport out, and there's nothing you can do, and they got 100 zeroed, and that was it. Because then now they lost all their stuff, they're 10-minute walk away from the fight, and that person's like, this game
and
is
now they're
frustrating.
not geared, so like, will they get one shot every time they're naked? Like, if that takes away from my judo chopping out of trees tactic.
I know.
I don't want to catch a spear in the back, man. I want to at least get
you got to judo chop the people that are by themselves, or those crafters.
And again, I think if they focus on putting the emphasis on active defensive abilities, the dodge, the evade, whatever, block, put the emphasis on that, and then that really helps players drive time to kill, and it takes it away from...
As long as it doesn't turn into a fighting game tactic, right? Where it's like block, 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 and
well, I was just going to bring up that. Like, what about the time of a round of, like, a Street Fighter game? Like, you can get somebody in, like, 10 seconds, or they could go back and forth for 30 seconds, depending on how good they can block.
That's the design, and I really feel like that's the design that Crowfall is kind of taking. Obviously, two tanky people fighting each other going to be a little longer than two people that...
Sure, I mean, there's definitely going to be balance.
You got the dodge mechanics. They talked about block mechanics. Like, all that's going to really factor into how long your match or your 1v1 or how long you're going to survive. And I love that because it takes skill into effect. It no longer is, now you have this large amount of gear. Like, if I'm just significantly better than you and you have the gear advantage, I could still win because I know how to block, I know how to dodge, my micro is better than you. Yeah, you have the gear, but it's going to be mine soon.
Well, I mean, for those who are just watching on YouTube and are not seeing the Twitch chat going on right now, Thomas basically said that he's bookending combat between DCUO and Terra, and he's kind of aiming for something right in the middle. He said DCO was too fast and Terra was too long. So I think I don't remember how PvP was in Terra, but basically you could draw out a fight because you could just dodge around somebody and never get hit and just fake out everybody. So there's a lot of different methodology behind group comps. I mean, I think that adds to a lot of things. And
well, honestly, I mean, I think the biggest, the next big talking point is actually talking about, today's news update and the different archetypes.
Yep.
I mean, because that's really what this is going to start turning into is, how long is it going to take my centaur to kill your knight, or my knight to kill your mage. I mean, of course, these are archetypes, but just in general, it's a big talking point. It's a good question.
Well, here's one thing we can kind of, this is a pretty good segue that you brought up, Valor, between today's update and this. Like for the Centaur, for example, characters have masks too, which is an interesting aspect that I don't think we've ever really seen in an MMO before, let alone any type of online PvP game. Is if that Centaur charges your line of knights, you can actually move them back, much like in any other game. And they've talked about that. I mean, we haven't seen it work, and hopefully it does work because it's a very awesome concept. But again, it has to work for it to be viable, obviously. Yeah. But I mean, like, to talk about it, like, how does the time to kill and making things a little bit slower than your average MMO PvP game? Somebody brought up, I guess, in one of the third was, how does it affect the zerg? So let's go beyond the 10v10 in the medium range groups and go for like the big things. And obviously we talked about there's zerg busters because of physics and logistics and all that other stuff, but how does this affect the zerg? Legs, we'll go with you first on that.
Dude, go to Valor. I was actually sitting here trying to like have a side combo with
oh there we go.
First
okay.
time for everything.
Yeah, no, and if we're looking at TTK group builds, different archetypes and how it affects the zerg. There are so many, and I wish I could just make this my signature, but there are so many different features of Crowfall that will inhibit what people recognize as a zerg. You've got in some campaigns, you've got friendly fire. In all campaigns, you have collision detection. And of course, as soon as I say that, J. Todd's going to show up.
Doesn't work.
And say, well, actually, we're probably going to try that in some campaigns just because we want to see what it does. It's like, well, yes, of course.
Or use another analogy.
You guys can do anything you want in any campaign, but hey, likelihood they're putting all of these collision detection and mass and all of these things into the game. They're not going to leave that out. So you've got collision detection. Archers, if they're trying to shoot at somebody in the back lines, they're going to have to shoot over your front lines. I would have to assume that there's going to be some sort of indirect fire because of that feature. So there's no tab targeting. The conversation we had earlier about we're going to nuke this particular person, target everyone's fire on one person. I would hope and assume that there's no tab targeting because you have a reticle. They've said this. There's going to be a reticle for aiming. So I would assume that would mean there's no tab targeting, no target calling.
We could still call targets, but everybody's got to aim properly and get there.
Call targets. You're going to be like, all right, kill that one guy with the bow. And, there might be like 5 guys out there with bows. So when you start adding in all of this, and then you add in the archetypes, you add in whatever AoEs out there, you add in the lack of fire hose healing, where if one person starts getting targeted and they're in a group of 50 people, how easy is it going to be to try and protect that person? It's not. People are going to have to work to take care of themselves. So, we're concerned about the zerg. Don't be. I see enough, even just announced what is out there currently, to limit a zerg's capabilities.
I think we've had a lot of conversations on the zerg to begin with, and the tactics. Even if you took out friendly fire across the board, you hit a lot of good points, Valor, that kind of prohibit the zerg in general, right? And the main purpose of a zerg, if you think about it fundamentally, is you bring a lot of people to the fight. You don't care if they die, and you try to kill people to gain your advantage with your mass numbers. But when you bring into the effect of you losing gear and losing a lot of your making people respawn, and they can't respawn right on top of you, theoretically, right? We talked about rezzing and all that kind of stuff. Maybe you res across the map in a random location, and it takes forever to get back there. Like, you can't rejoin up with your guys over and over again. So good defense can actually stop a zerg. And it may not be the best tactic, especially in certain campaigns where friendly fire is going to be like, go ahead and zerg, like, go ahead and try to drop all the stuff. You may shoot your dude in the back of the head, like trying to run in. Like, it makes no sense. Like,
let me give you an example when we're talking about this range and trying to hit people at a distance. You know, when I was playing Darkfall, you know, their skill system was just atrocious, and it took, you know, countless hours to get to a decent level. And in that game, you know, I probably shot tens of thousands of arrows, and I mean, it takes a lot of time to get proficient. Now, the only drawback was that magic had no arc, and you didn't have to take any of that into consideration. Hit for more damage, and in general was better. But it would get to a point where, you know, we could be chasing somebody, they'd be going over a hill, and you could plink them as they're, you know, running away and be able to bring them down. I'm okay with skills taking a long time to master. I mean, they've said that. They say, you know what, you can...
Makes the game interesting.
Yeah, you can be good at it, but it's going to take a lot of time to become a master at it. And they might have just been talking about skill progression, but to me, you know, I'm okay with that as long as, you know, at the end there's still some balance in that, you know, the difficulty to hit somebody with a bow and the damage dealt there is still equal to the damage being dealt by somebody less experienced using magic.
There's two different points there, I think, that are very important. Is one, when you watch somebody play, you know, a confessor that's incredibly skilled, it's really fun to watch them because they're pulling off like really awesome, cool combos. They're moving around, they're dodging, they're living, and they're getting double kills or whatever you want to call them. And then when you watch somebody that's never played before, it's boring because you have some guy that's, you know, keyboard turning and clicking on skills and stuff like that, and it's kind of dull, which makes the game really interesting to watch when you're watching a skilled player. So as opposed to a normal MMO, you can't really tell the difference between a skilled player and an unskilled player just based on their combat movements because they're all just pressing buttons constantly. I mean, I'm oversimplifying it a lot because obviously there is them, but if you can script a good PvP player in World of Warcraft. I don't think you can script a good PvP player in a Crowfall type of game.
Yeah, it would be difficult. You know, it really would. And you know, I think that one of the other big factors is that, and you know, I even saw this on the forums. You know, people are tired of that. You know, that one skill, and everyone knows it, that's attached to your #1 key, and it's the one that you just hit over and over and over and over and over again while waiting for your other skills to come up. Talk about an annoying feature, and one that frustrates, you know, more advanced players who know how to play their class, and you know, yet here they are. I think, what was it, Mana Stars in Guild Wars 2? You know, I mean, whatever it is, every MMO, they all have it. I'd rather see them make
the auto attack key. You mean?
Yeah, you know, it's like it's what you always
spam key,
auto attack
your
skill,
spam key, your auto attack key. You know, I mean, come on, guys, you don't have to have that. There's no good reason. Your player is going to always try and attack anyone.
Well, there's really no. I don't think there's a bad thing about an auto attack key. It's bad in WildStar when it's the only thing you're spamming. It's another thing when, you know, you can, like in a MOBA where you right-click on somebody and do some auto attack damage. I mean, there's still some skill involved in weaving auto attacks in with skills and stuff like that. Do you need it? No, but it's not. I don't think it's inherently bad either.
Yes.
I think Thomas actually posted something in the chat that will kind of help facilitate this style of plays. If you're by yourself and mana dependent, you may have to use a smaller auto attack skills to put out the damage, because you can't sit there and consistently spam your other skills because you run out of mana, you'll lose the fight.
Yeah, we don't know anything about resource management.
Classes, you have that mana battery kind of charging you up. That can change your playstyle to where you're not pushing 1, 1, 1, 1. Now you can push 2, 2, 2, 3, 5, 7, T, R, X, whatever you got going on. And that will facilitate that style of play. And I actually like that. It depends on what you bring to the fight.
No, for sure.
So I think that's awesome. I think the other thing I want to touch on was, I think Hades hit it when we started talking about the zerging a little bit, and just to take a step backwards slightly, was that I'm excited about the type of people that are very used to the common zerg nowadays. Try to utilize that in a physics game.
Terrible.
Or physics-based game.
You're going to lose.
And then you're going to lose every time, because terrain is going to play a huge part in your zerg that you're not used to. Those old zerg tactics that people are like, yo, I'm tired of getting zerged in Arcade or whatever other game you're playing now, like, you can try to use those tactics in this game. But I think the very skilled people that can follow directions and have good leadership up top that can direct their people and put them in good formations to begin with, because I think formations is going to be
that's going to be a thing.
That kind of stuff is going to matter extreme, like friendly fire formations, the path of your target going out. Like you're going to have certain lanes available to utilize that.
Well, here's one major point that I was going to bring up when I said I had 2 points before, and I never got to my second one, and it's basically what you're saying there, Lakes, is the zerg might not even be a bad thing, because if everybody has to take up a physical space and you need room to work your skills, the zerg might get just stretched out over a larger group of or a larger area. Just be in a Guild Wars 2 or an Elder Scrolls zerg, it's all in one giant ball in a concentrated area, and you're just like, it's just two big balls of death fall up, collide, and it's just a mess. But in a zerg where you can't overlap players and you can't pass through players, it's stretched all over a plains or up the hillside, over a river or whatever. And so, yes, there's maybe 1,000 people versus 1,000 people or whatever number, but it's all just like real trench warfare or old battle. It's all localized fights going on through a larger area over a grand scheme of things. So I think that might make the game more interesting if they can pull it off.
And the voxels. I think the voxels are something that people just aren't even completely used to yet, because what if you set up an ambush spot? And this is my one what if of the show. But like, you can go ahead and zerg, or you have this premeditated raid. You know you're going to be raided, but you already go out with your guys. You dig them underground, and while they're being zerged in this choke point where you pre-establish your wall of guys, you have people up top on a hill, you have this like L-shaped ambush kind of going on, and while they funnel into that area where you're wanting to have this fight, all of a sudden your guys come from underneath the ground and you're in your backline already assassinating. Like, you could set up this premeditated, like, totally different style of play with this voxels.
That's your one. That's your one what if for the show right there.
And it's I feel like that one what if you make that happen, I think you would make tons of people happy, because if I can knock down a hill and make it land on people, or if I can pre-establish holes where I have dudes in, and then that hole, like, we climb out and just start murking people, like, I think that's
judo chop from the ground.
Yo, coming up on a Tuesday.
We'll call that the Caddyshack move from here on out.
There we go.
Valerie, you're typing fiercely and concentrating on the screen there. What are you talking about?
First off, it was going to be responding to some people asking about what we're going to do with the show.
Let's save that up for the last part of the show then.
So, we'll get to that part.
Let's transition to today's update, because I think we've been kind of talking about it. Today's update, they've been essentially, they said that they're testing combat, and we found that out last week, and they've been kind of secretly or lightly casually teasing out what they're doing. Thomas is in chat every single week, and he kind of throws a tidbit here and there on what they're doing. So they're really kind of concepting right now and modeling and getting it in the game engine, and and putting numbers to things to see how things work. And today Todd put out an update, and they said that they're going to have 3 classes or archetypes that they're going to test combat with. And it's basically, you have your tanker, you have your melee DPS, and you have your ranged DPS, essentially. And that's the Knight, the Legionnaire, and the Confessor.
I'd probably tailor that a little bit. The Legionnaire is supposed to be a mid-range support character, according to how they want this to particularly play out. So, the Knight's supposed to be the more melee tank.
Giant shield.
Yeah. Then the Confessor going to be that magic DPS. Then the Legionnaire, the support. So, obviously key, we'll call them classes that we're missing out on right now. Archer. That's a big one, and I know a lot of people.
But depends if the
melee DPS. But they can test out the game with these.
Well, the Legionnaire, I call it a melee just because he has a pole arm. So, and you talk about his mass and about moving characters around, or it's difficult for other people to move him around, that type of thing. So, I think the Legionnaire with a pole arm is supposed to charge the front line and try to get to the back lines, or crash from the side, or whatever kind of warfare tactics kind of work.
Think of it like old school tactics, where you had your grunts, your front line, right? Guys with the shields, and then you had your cavalry.
Exactly.
Running from the side, they're a little heavier. They can knock out maybe your smaller, weaker guys in that mid lane, mid tier style of formation that you may have. And they're kind of the guys that you want to put on the vertical of your L-shaped ambush, like set up your guys there to get into the back line. Like that could be a possibility. Like I think that they're testing the right classes. Because one, you need to have your supports in there because you don't want them to be too good at everything, right? Like a support, depending on which class and which style of play you go, should have I think I did a whole complete special on a support one time, but the support should be designed to do certain things good, depending on how you spec, but not do all of it great. Like, it should be buff, debuff, heal over time, or be more of your control type person.
I think some of the terminology they're using, they're calling the Legionnaire their first support class. Basically, his support powers are geared towards close combat, requiring him to be in the thick of battle to make the best use of them. He can rally his team with increased combat capabilities while using his mighty polearm to lay waste to any enemy foolish enough to stand in his path. It says his centaur body makes him an interesting mix. He has increased mobility, and seems the odds with his increased mass. There's a lot of parentheses in this statement.
Lots of parentheses.
Never mind, that just screwed up my whole reading process. But essentially,
I get watching this. Get to the point, Junior.
Essentially, he's going to be whacking people over the head, and he can rally his team. So maybe he has like some shout abilities or something else like that that can plus attack speed, plus mobility, that type of thing. So I think as long as the Confessor's fireballs or whatever she's going to be tossing out. Did they say, what kind of? Oh, they just said firepower. They didn't say what kind of damage she's doing. But or holy fire.
The Confessor.
Holy fire.
So,
this is there going to be physics? Let's talk about the Confessor. Is there going to? My first question for you, Valor, and you can take it off the point you wanted to make. Is there going to be physics on the holy fire? Because I think that's very important to test on any.
They talked about they want to incorporate physics into player skills. If you swing an axe, it'll knock people back. I would envision.
I'm just talking about like the arc of the projectile. That's what I'm talking about.
So I think there's going to be an arc of a projectile, or you'll be able to select a spot on the ground, or something along those lines where you can either lob or drop whatever your skill is within your little range. But also, when you drop something, I think there's also going to be either a knockback or a knockdown. I think there's going to be physics in some of the skills because they've said they want to incorporate it.
It'll be important.
But they also talked about with the Confessor building up sin within your opponents, and then
I dig it.
And then
I dig it a lot.
And then purifying the sin through fire.
Do you know what that means? Come on, let's. It's
no.
It's like
no. It's just it's a simple. It's like a simple rogue combo system. You put up. You build up a meter or a rage meter, but you build up a rage meter on a target. Whatever. I mean, it's just another mechanic. It sounds cool.
Yeah, but
come on.
This is a cool way to go about it.
It's a cool description. You bought into the lore.
Dude,
come on.
It is a stack system essentially.
Yeah.
In managing your stack system on somebody effectively.
Sure. Oh, it definitely takes skill to do that.
I think that's a pretty cool concept. Like, I dig it. As soon as I started to read that, in my mind I was like, yes, because what if you can I'm not even gonna do my what if. It's your what if. You guys run with it, but I can dig it.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different ways that you can go with that. If you're doing single target, you can manage your stacks. You can work on, they have the hots, so people will be burning, and you build up all this fire. You click your hey, I'm about to drop some massive shit on your head skill, and boom, that person's rolling on the ground trying to put out the fires.
No, I mean it's. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I was having.
Yeah.
Thomas is yelling at me in chat.
I was going to roll straight into Ricky Bobby. Help me, Oprah. Help me, Tom Cruise. I mean, it's going to be fun. And honest to God, if you guys can find a way to put a character rolling on the ground in flames when they die from a Confessor,
you gotta have those cool,
put that in your game.
Cool special. I'm a sucker. I mean, for really cool spell effects. I will totally re-roll a class and play something if it looks fancy because I love cool shit on my screen.
Yes,
for sure.
Well, I mean, it's your play style too. Like I can't believe you try to convince us to play Hello Kitty.
Hard sell.
Hard sell.
And Lakes was playing that for 8 hours. 8 hours last night. It's done. It's like I've been paying for this forever. You just don't know.
But you're right. You're right. So that's one of the cool things, and they did bring in the new guy to come in, the Eric 4D, to alleviate some pressure, so we could start to develop those cool animations. Because I do like it as well, and I feel like this game in general has the ability, because they've got all of us hyped up. There's so many people that are interested in this game. When it comes closer to time to play, the hype's just going to build up. But like we have the opportunity to see what it was beforehand, and I'm so excited to see what they're working on now.
Let's talk about the Confessor, because Mr. Blair's yelling at me in chat where I'm so jaded and everything else like that. I love, like I said, the effects. If you make it look cool, I will play it. And there's a couple things, like I'm a big stickler for class mechanics and combat mechanics. And Todd had a great quote, and I'm gonna mess up the quote, but essentially he was saying, if you screw up combat and it's bad, the rest of the game doesn't matter, because if combat sucks, I don't want to even play your game, and you're never going to know if it has good content or not. So when you get to something like the Confessor, I think you have a sin meter on somebody, and it fills up and allows you to, it's like the reverse energy pool on a player. And that could easily be really fun, or that could be also very tedious, and it's very important on how you develop those things. Because if you have to spam a bunch of abilities to build up your sin meter to do one really cool ability, that might make combat a little bit boring down the road. It makes it basically two-dimensional. It's spam, 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 finding your most efficient finisher, whether it's AoE or single target, and you finish things. Maybe I'm getting too detailed right now, but that just popped into my brain right now.
I think someone talked about like dots and stuff in that kind of class, and I'm not a fan of dots, especially for like a Confessor type thing. I'm really into managing stacks. So the more stacks you have on somebody, the more damage you'll end up doing to them, which is more of a reason why your team should be able to try to CC or stop that person from building these stacks or rage or whatever they want to call them, righteous fire, holy, whatever, But dots to me are just like,
they're not satisfying. All those little. What if you have like 30 dots and numbers are just pouring off all over the place? That's kind of satisfying.
I'm just not a dot person. Like if you play dots, it should be, in my opinion, like a like maybe a ranger or some sort of class where he's spreading like a poison, or he's bleeding, or even just any class that you're spreading bleeding or something like that. But like condition stacking, in my opinion, is like a dots, but it's something that is you try to do as many people as possible, but also has a other like utility in it. Typically, your ranger will have some sort of like interrupt or something with their arrows, some sort of skill involved in that stuff. But if you're just specifically a dot class, I don't really care for those. That's just my play style. I mean, I don't know how you guys feel. I'm sure there's people that love to go out and spread dots all over the place and have a great time. But I think in PvP, dots to me are very
not in this with healing. Not being in this game, dots are actually effective, because in a game with healers,
it has nothing to do with healing.
No, it does, because
it's effective, but it's not.
But see, the thing
2,
is,
3, 4. I just put a stack on you, then I tab or target someone else. I mean, because there's no tab targeting.
Maybe you actively need to be hitting people to get the dots on them. What I'm saying though is, in a typical healer-based Trinity game, dots don't do anything, because all the splash healing that you do just heals over the dots over time, so it's really no big idea. You need spike damage to overcome incoming healing. But with a good dot class, you can wear down a group of enemies with dots because they're not healing themselves. So, I mean, that's...
I agree with Scree, though. I do think that dots are more PvE mechanic for raid bosses than it is. Like, there should be some dots, but not a specific class designed to put dots on people. That... In my opinion, you're better off trying to go kill a scripted boss than put it into a PvP game, because then you have to put in, well, how do you even remove dots? There's no healing to help mitigate it.
There could be purges.
There could be purges, like
whatever.
I don't know. It's just weird. In a PvP based game, dots a strict dot class, in my opinion, is a little much. However, each class could have the option to have a dot. Bleeding, poison, different conditions, and a way to remove those, whether it's another skill being like a purge or different mechanics involved in removing those. But that takes away from a lot of it. Like, they just removed all your dots. Then now what?
I mean, there's a lot of mechanics that you could do to actually make it work.
There's a lot of different ways you can tackle it, and they're not just a dot class. I mean, that's the other thing is, they've talked about how they want to allow people to choose the direction they go with their skills, so you kind of create your own little combos and go your own direction. You might want to throw dots on somebody or on a lot of people, and then go from there. And then after that,
hold on a second, Valor.
Yeah.
We need to get Skype up and working again.
Yeah, I was getting some weird errors going on there with your camera.
So while you're figuring that out, I'll go ahead and clean up my statement. So the Confessor is going to be more of a stack, I think, in that type of class. I don't think it's going to be more of a dot. They'll probably have some dots, like some burning effects that happen with the skills that are on them, and I think that should happen. I mean, you get hit by a meteor, you're probably going to burn a little bit, and therefore the dot is a little bit, it's justified. Or if you get hit with this large piercing arrow, you should have a little bit of a bleed stack on there. But like someone going in and spreading dots and disease and whatever else, like I'm not a fan of that without some sort of healer involved in it. Like that fits, in my opinion, like a PvE or a firebow, like a healing class where someone's designed to help remove those things. It gives that healer something to do.
Well, and it doesn't have to be healer. I mean, again, support. A support being able to send out skills that, because we saw this in Guild Wars 1 a lot, where you could put shields on people that would reflect damage or reflect some sort of negative thing, and there were the curse necros, and
but there were skills involved directly to remove those, whether it's like remove condition from a monk that would remove all the conditions and give them heal per condition that was stacked on them, or convert hexes, or other types of classes specifically designed to remove that style of play. And unless they add that into the support class, like you're saying, I don't really see there being a dot class specifically.
Yeah.
And it looks like we're having so much Skype problems right now. I'm so sorry, guys.
I honestly don't even know what's going on.
But it's my secondary PC is kind of, for some reason, doesn't like Skype right now.
As long as they could see you, I think we're still good.
Well, they can see me, but your screens are screwed up, so keep talking, and I'll
all right, well,
I'll fix
we'll
it.
just keep talking. And so I see the potential there, and we can sit here and talk about the Confessor all day just because they're the cool ones, and they kind of gave us more information. But if you look at the Knight, here just a second, let me see if I can do this. Yeah, if you look at the Knight, I mean, they're going to be getting into a lot more of that defensive capability, so you're going to be able to put them between your legionnaires. You can put them between your archers, or maybe not between your legionnaires, and they'll be able to soak up damage.
Did Lakes I can't talk right now. Go ahead.
Hello?
Hello?
I was just making sure you guys can hear me. All right, cool.
Yeah.
I do like that style of play. Me personally, like, I feel like there's other classes that we don't know about that are out there, like the Druid, for instance. I feel like the Druid's going to have some sort of, like, nature, obviously nature, right? Druid nature. But they're going to have this, like, maybe more of a heal over time and remove conditions and remove these debuff style of play that could support some sort of dot or anti-dot type capability. I'm really excited to see what the other classes do, because I was always into the Confessor. Sounds pretty cool. Legionnaire, yeah. I mean, I wasn't into it 100%, but I'm really interested in the other classes, like the Druid, for instance. That's something that I would like to play. So, I mean, I guess we'll find out.
Yeah. Well, and I think that another thing that we're going to see is the importance of mass. When you have the Legionnaire who's able to, heavy mass, he's able to plow through people. How well is he going to be able to plow through a line of knights to get through them and into the back lines? It's going to just add an extra level of PvP that we haven't been able to have.
Yeah, and I'm excited about the different tactics. I think I said a little bit earlier about maybe that Legionnaire being part of your L-shaped ambush as part of the cavalry is specifically designed to try to use its mass to push its way into the backline and inflict as much damage and disruption towards your main damage dealers. And I think with the classes and the way you could spec those classes, it's really going to make a difference in the style of PvP and the physics and the weight of everything and how much gear you have on and armor. Like, that's going to matter quite a bit, and being able to maximize your group's potential in overcoming or coming out with the victory in certain battles.
Yeah.
Let's wrap that up. I'm messing with Skype here, and it just doesn't want to work whatsoever.
Yeah, I keep getting a problem, so
I don't know what's going on. In any case, we're gonna hit the after show soon because we've been running for actually an hour, which is crazy.
we're already at an hour.
We're at probably
Ish.
50 minutes or so. In any case, get on GameVox, find the instructions below the stream. You guys know what to do. We're going to go to the after show. We'll take some questions. Valerie, somebody asked earlier in the show exactly what we're going to do for future shows. And we've been talking about bringing some other guild leaders on and stuff like that. You really want to do that. So let's discuss what you think the show should go.
Yeah. Where the show, I think, should go, and real quick, Dragon, as I couldn't take your call because it's not coming through on the group.
Don't worry about that.
Where I think the show is going to be heading is, this is nothing against Ace. The scenario that they're in is that they have announced so much information, and the community as a whole has digested it, that now they're just working on actually building everything they told people they're going to build. And there's nothing to talk about. Unless they're going to start talking about systems that they want to put in, but those systems are going to be based off of things that they're currently working on. They can't even get into it. So for us as a show, what we're going to start focusing on is we're going to start focusing on things that are going to be interesting to the community. We're not going to do guild spotlights. We're not going to highlight guilds. We're not going to promote guilds. But what we are interested in doing is we are interested in getting insight into what is going on and how guilds are approaching a game like Crowfall. We're still, these are things that we're going to have to figure out how to do, effectively. But, we want to get in touch with, some of the new guilds out there. Some of the guilds designed specifically for Crowfall and say, you guys are doing something that, we're 2 years before the game even launches. We're maybe 6 months before we even really see any major content in Crowfall in any way, shape, or form. And you're what are you doing? How are you doing it? How's it going? And just giving a window into that, and then taking.
You're very interested in this because you're the community guy at LOTD. You love the community building type of aspect. I am too, because we're all
the guy for Crowns and Crows.
It's true.
In general, I'm the community guy.
You like that stuff, and I really like following how a community is built. I just hope the only pitfall, and we were talking about this, is we got to find the right people who want to come on, because no one's coming on the show unless you have a camera. First of all, we're not going to put like a little picture up and just put your name under it and say this is guild leader so and so. You need to come on with the webcam.
You gotta own it.
You got to own who you are. I mean, we're not that type of show, and you got to be ready to talk about all aspects of Crowfall. I mean, yeah, we might have a 5-minute piece on.
Dude, the camera idea just kept the neckbeards away. I'm so pumped. Thank you for putting that out there.
Oh, yes. I've done shows before where we've had a couple guild leaders on, and they're like, oh, I don't have a camera. I don't have a camera. This was for Guild Wars 2, and these guys were going at it in a campaign, and they were going at it on the forums, and I'm like, all right, well, you guys are talking shit back and forth. Let's bring you on the show. Duke it out. So they're like, oh, I don't have a camera. I don't have a camera. I'm like, okay. So we got some silly little picture of them that they wanted their avatar in their game or a real life picture or something like that, and then they come on, they're all hunky-dory, they're making happy faces at each other, and it's just like this show sucks. So
no, and
you got to come on. You got to come on.
I'm there with you. I agree.
Good.
And one of the guys I'd like to get on here is Hades. And that's look at the LOTD guys wanting to interview their guild leader. Honestly, I think it'd be wildly interesting to bring up some of the big knocks against LOTD in the past.
Honestly, I don't think anybody really cares.
No,
I'm being honest with you.
No, because you can apply this. You can apply this to any multi-gaming guild.
Fine.
And I want to bring on Scree and Hades on the same show.
Scree. Who? Wait, who? Scree who?
I don't know, dude.
Some sorry. Yeah, no, but but then also, as I said, get into some of the other communities that have been set up for Crowfall.
Sure.
And you're able to get different windows into what are these communities having to deal with in preparation for Crowfall, or in the absence of a game like Crowfall, because I know that especially from our community, that it's not easy. It's not easy dealing with games that honestly are turning over every 6 months just because of poor design, and we can't even. What would you do about that? Uh-oh. I think it played. Did it actually?
It worked, finally.
Did it work? I'm
did.
watching the stream waiting for it to pop up.
Oh, man.
Does it make the sound, too?
It certainly does.
Oh.
Nice,
there we
dude.
go.
So, long story short, you guys can email us at crownsandcrows@gmail.com. Let us know you have a camera, and tell us why, because we want to bring people on. If you want to be on the show, let us know. Camera, no neck beards. And
well, you can have a neck beard. You just have to come on the camera.
You just have to own it.
Yeah, man. Come on. Yeah. you just got to come. And you can't have some shitty little $5 camera you got at CVS that's like has 160 pixels in resolution. It's got to be a nice camera. Make sure your mic works. Go on Skype or something like that and test it out so it's no feedback. And then you can't have any sound in the background. So clean up your room. We don't want to see your dirty laundry. And we'll go from there. So, again, follow us down there below. Hit all the like buttons. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Every time you follow us, you get an awesome little Valor song and dance, which is excellent. We saw one of those just now. And I think, again, like Lake said, crownsandcrows@gmail.com. If you want to be on, you can hit Valor up on Twitter, and you'll take your applications that way. PMO on the main forums. I mean, there's a million different ways we can do it. But until then, next week, 8:30 Tuesdays as usual. And I think it's a good place now to transition to the after show. Have a great night, guys. Take care.
See ya.
Peace, guys.